What's up, guys? We're here today at Hard Racing again, working on our Z125 project bike, and today we're going to be doing the Brembo brake upgrade. A lot of you guys might think, well, what's wrong with the stock ones? Well, if you've ever experienced good quality brakes, you'll realize the stock ones are just crap. It's a tiny little rotor, even smaller than the Grom. The pads are kind of crappy. Obviously, we put brake lines on it. We put an upgraded master cylinder, which helped. But the stock ones are they're crap. And right now, the pads, getting front pads for these are almost impossible. Maybe I think one company has a pair, but they'll eventually have them. But still, it's just a stock crappy caliper. And compared to the Brembo, which is a lot better caliper, dual piston, one on each side. The pad compound material is way better, and the clamping power is far superior. So today we're going to go ahead and install that. We've already done testing on the stock brakes, 30 to 0, 40 to 0, and we're going to measure that versus the Brembo to show the improvement. These are going to work on the stock rotors, and all you're going to have to do is just swap out the caliper and the caliper bracket, like this right here. And obviously you're probably going to want to get a set of stainless lines, complete the kit, make it nice and total upgrade, but we offer it just basically any way you want it. Our brake kits are going to come with, of course, the caliper bracket, the Brembo calipers, your choice of a front line. You can also add a Brembo master cylinder if you want to complete the kit. That's complete. Best brake upgrade would be a Brembo master cylinder, stainless steel brake lines from Moto, Brembo calipers, and of course our caliper bracket. You do all that and you're going to have a monster set of brakes. And we offer it a la carte, so you can pick and choose what you want, which calipers, what color lines, banjo ends, the fittings, caliper bracket, and of course if you want a master cylinder or not. It's basically totally customized on how you want your brake upgrade kit. And we offer all that in any kind of arrangements you'd like. And here's what the master cylinder looks like as an option. Folding lever, adjustable ratio. You can get the optional reservoir with hose and bracket kit that we carry. Make it all nice and perfect fit. And then you have a nice complete setup. But this is going to be a far upgrade for your stock setup. We do this almost with all our bikes to get better braking. For us, you can't have too good of a brakes. I mean, there's just so many crazy people out there that pull out in front of you, dog run out in front of you, animals, cars switching lanes, pulling out in front of you. So for us to have better brakes that work better, don't fade, and just have a lot better initial bite is just a no-brainer. Because at the end of the day, if it can mean the difference between stopping in time instead of going through the back of a car window, it's worth it for us. So hands down, having better brakes is just a no-brainer for us. Safety-wise, performance, and also it looks really nice too. And we'll show you how quick and easy it is to install that next. Alright, so installation on this could not be easier. All you have to do is remove these two bolts, pull the caliper off, you're going to disconnect the line, install the caliper bracket back on, and then the Brembo calipers. Real simple. So first thing we do is take these off. So you take these off, put a little pressure left and right, and that will push the pistons out, make it easier to take off. So this thing's just going to stay all in one piece, and all you're going to do is just disconnect. Actually, if you got stock lines, then you'll just leave all this connected up and just disconnect the brake line at the top, because you're going to put in the core Motos to replace that. If you already did stainless steel brake lines, then all you would do is just disconnect it from here, connect it to the new caliper, and just bleed them real quick and easy. Alright, so next you want to go ahead and take the bracket, the caliper bracket, and put that on there. Now the key here is that you're going to use this behind it, and you want to put Loctite, blue Loctite, on the bolts. stuck those in there. Torque those down. Alright. Now your caliper will bolt right up into, look, just like that. Nice and easy. So here's the trick though. We recommend bleeding your lines in your caliper first, because if you do it while it's on the bike, you take the chance of dripping brake fluid onto your wheel. Now, if you're super clean with it and you bleed it right and stuff, then that's not a big deal. But at least the bare minimum, if you're swapping your line over without, if it's already on there, it's already got fluid in it, don't do it while it's on the bike. Basically, hold the line up like this, pull the bolt, switch it over, tighten it down, then put it down. That'll minimize how much you drip and make a mess everywhere. If the line is brand new, if you're getting the one with the kit, then obviously you can bolt it on while it's on the bike, run it through. It's totally personal preference, but your goal is to try to minimize you dripping brake fluid onto your wheel. Alright, so next what you want to do is verify where the brake line is going to go to. If it's not long enough to reach the bottom, then you can just pop off the bleed valve and switch it from the top to the bottom. Nice feature with the Brembos. Now the only caveat with that is now your bleeder valve is down here. So the air is going to go up. You're trying to bleed it down here. So the only way to bleed a caliper, and this goes the same thing for the back, the only way to bleed a caliper with the valve down here is to take it off the bike, turn it upright, bleed it out. Once you're done, then put it back. If you try to bleed the caliper with the bleed valve at the bottom and the air's up here, you're never going to get the air out. It's always going to be squishy and you're going to say something's wrong. There's nothing wrong. There's air in your lines. So again, the only way to bleed with the bleed valve on the bottom is to take the caliper off the bike, straighten up the caliper, bleed it, and then mount it back on the bike. Otherwise, the air is just going to stay up top. So you got that down there. Now you're going to mount your brake line to here. Now here's the catch. You have to have a fine threaded banjo bolt for the caliper. Brembo uses fine threaded banjo bolts for the calipers and for the master cylinder. So you can't just take this bolt off of here and screw it into there, or you're going to cross thread and ruin the whole thing. So these are coarse threaded, this is fine threaded. So make sure that you have a fine threaded banjo bolt for this caliper. And of course all this stuff's offered on our website when you buy these kits, and our lines that are for the Brembo kit will come with a fine threaded banjo bolt. At least one for the caliper, and if you order a master cylinder, come with two. Alright, so what we did here is we temporarily attached it to the caliper bracket so that we could torque the banjo bolt down to about 20 foot-pounds of torque. Obviously you want to get the right angle so that it goes up back to the fitting on the back of the fender. Make sure, obviously again, this is the fine threaded banjo bolt that we include with the kit, and obviously 2 new crush washers. And as you can see, the bleeder valve now again is at the bottom. So once again, if you try to bleed this now, all you're going to do is suck out fluid down here and all the air is going to stay up top. This whole thing here is a cavity on the back side of the piston where all the fluid sits, and the air is going to sit up there. So if you want to bleed this correctly, you got to take it off of the bracket, flip it upside down, and pump the air out of the caliper like this. So basically you're going to bleed the caliper like this, with the bracket and the caliper separated and the bleeder valve at the highest point so all the air can go up while you bleed it. Because the whole point of it is you want to fill these cavities full of fluid, not air. and you can only do that with the nipple for the bleeder at the top of the caliper. So now all you do is put on a little hose on this, run it into a little catch can, and slowly, gravity will do most of it, and at the very end, you're basically going to squeeze the master cylinder a little bit, open it up, let the air out, tighten it back up, and do it again and again. It helps if you have two people doing it, but you can do it by yourself. You just got to take your time. But the key is to do it until you see no air bubbles coming out of the little hose that you're going to run off of this into your catch can. Once you see no air bubbles coming off, then you can tighten this down, and then you put that back on there. Then you should be good to go. Now obviously when you're bleeding it off of there, your pads are going to go like this and crunch down. So what you can do is you can stick a popsicle stick in there, or you can just do it with your pads on it, and then when you're done, you just press them back out. Now, it's real important when you press them back out, some of the fluid's going to go up, so don't top off your master cylinder until you've pressed the pads back out. And obviously, while you're bleeding your brakes, make sure that your master cylinder doesn't ever run empty, otherwise you got air in the lines. Alright, so what we basically just did is we drained the fluid out, put the popsicle stick in there, pumped it, all the air out, having this thing pointed up. And then basically once you're all done, you just pry the pads back out with another popsicle stick or a piece of plastic. Very easy to do. And now you're ready to mount this back on the bike. So what you want to do is put it into position. And obviously the pads should have been pushed all the way out. And then you want to take your bolts that are included with the bracket and mount them on there. Of course, again, blue Loctite on the bolt. Even. Once you get it all square, then you go ahead and tighten them down, torque them. Alright, so now your pads are slightly pushed out. The best way to do it is to spin the wheel really fast and smack the master cylinder so the pads crunch down and get aligned squarely. That's the best way to do it. The other option is, if you've got some clear ground, just roll the bike forward and anchor down on the master cylinder. Of course, either way will work. The biggest thing is you just want to have the pads nice and centered on the rotor so that it's true and straight, and it obviously doesn't push one side or another. Alright, so when it's all said and done, just go ahead and double check your brakes, squeeze them, make sure they're nice and tight. Should be really firm, especially with the braided brake lines. And double check, this is really important, double check, squeeze them hard, and double check and make sure there's no fluid. Make sure that you got these nice and snug under both the actual banjo bolt and the drain plug. Make sure you just give them a good squeeze and hold it there for a few seconds. Last thing you want to do is think you had something tightened and not, and have fluid puking out and cause a crash. So be very careful to make sure you do that correctly. So if you get that all squared up, you should be able to spin. The tire should be free to spin. You'll hear a little bit of metal, obviously, because you got brand new pads rubbing on your calipers. Something else that's very important that you should do before you go out and ride, you could have done this earlier, but you can do it now, no big deal, is take some contact cleaner and wipe your calipers down real good. And that gets the old compound pad material off of your rotor so that the new ones can seat and get nice. Because basically, right now, this rotor has the OEM pad compound in it, and you want to get that nice and fresh and clean so that these new higher friction HH sintered metal pads can really get a good bite on it. So real important to do that, and then take it easy maybe for the first 10-15 miles of using the brakes till they seat really well. What we do is we'll do just a little bit of squeeze and maybe kind of bog the motor down to get them nice and seated. But you don't want to just immediately throw them on and start doing stoppies, because you have a potential, until they're seated correctly, is to damage something like your rotor, warp your rotor, or whatnot. So once you're all good and set, though, and they're seated in, then you can rock on it. And you're going to find, and we'll show the test when we do this, the difference between the stock and these. But you're going to find with the better calipers, bigger pistons, more clamping power, larger pads, more contact patch, better material, stainless brake lines, everything's just going to stop that much better. The bike's going to come to a less fade, faster stop, and overall it's a safer thing. It's more enjoyable when you're riding to be able to stop quicker. You guys that like stunting, you can do better stoppies and whatnot, have better control over your brakes and modulations. But hands down, it's a huge upgrade over the stock garbage, and you definitely like it. So if you enjoyed our video, please give a thumbs up. At the bottom there, click thumbs up, and also drop a comment. We really appreciate all the comments, and of course, most important, subscribe to our channel. We need the support, and tell your friends, and check out our other videos that we have for the Z and the Grom on our channel. And if you have any other questions, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on the forums, and most of all, check us out at our website at hardracing.com.